welcome to Dating While Black and Lesbian presents interviews with Black professionals. Today I have a special guest, Chelsea Glover Jordan, who is a licensed clinical social worker who specializes in anxiety and mindfulness. Thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. I briefly touched on, what you do. Do you want to go any further, get more details?
Yeah, sure. So you pretty much covered everything. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I'm a psychotherapist. I specialize in women struggling with anxiety and depression and also postpartum issues. I emphasize techniques of mindfulness in my practice also.
Nice. Okay. Is there any one specific thing that led you down this path to want to do this type of work?
So I've been a social worker for almost 8 years. I kind of fell into this role. I wanted to be a psychologist first, but then I found out that social work opens the door for so many more opportunities. I started working in child welfare, child protective services for quite some time. I made my way up through the rankings there. And there I found that there was a need for intervention beyond children being taken away or beyond people who are too far gone that they don't, necessarily want help. And that's what kind of led me into the psychotherapy realm.
Okay. So your demographics is, I'm assuming, women mostly.
Yeah. Are you referring to the people that I serve?
Yes.
Yes. So primarily women of color. Most of my clientele is Black women. I do have women who are Asian. I have women who are Italian. I do have predominantly African women also, but mainly women of color, yes.
So I understand, like, based on what you said, I do understand that you work with a specific type of woman, but is that your primary caseload? Like, do you have caseloads or cases where it differs from women that are suffering through postpartum and such?
So I own a therapy practice, and it's woman-owned, woman-led, and there are 3 of us, and we all have our specific niches. And I allow the therapists who work in my practice to create their own niche, whatever fills their passion, whatever they are excited to, whatever community they're excited to work with. Mm-hmm. For me, it's spirituality and holistic approaches. Mm-hmm. Although I have never really turned down anyone who was experiencing anything outside of anxiety and depression, that's kind of what draws people to me, I guess. Right. I would say 95% of my clientele, they do experience anxiety and depression. The postpartum comes in because, a vast majority of women are moms, right? And I'm a mom myself. I went through postpartum depression myself, and I feel like I can reach others in a way that people who have not gone through postpartum depression cannot. I understand what it means to communicate those unfavorable feelings. I understand what it means to have support in dealing with those unfavorable feelings and what it could lead to if those things are not in place. So I think just me being me attracts that population.
Okay, that's nice. It's really nice. Okay. So I just want to see if we can somehow, I guess, get your opinion on some women issues, African American issues, but in a, I guess, LGBT type of way. And I guess my question was, as far as towards that, is, do you feel like there are, even if you have, same sex parents, maybe, do you feel like there's a space in your field profession that allows a certain, or even if it's required, a certain understanding or way to handle situations in which it is same parent dealing with specific issues that that may be easier or more outlined to handle if it was a separate, like a different sex, like man and woman? Are there any, like, as far as your school, does it teach things like how to deal with the same situations, or would you handle it the same way? I might be talking in circles. You know what I'm saying? So do you feel like it's the same or difference when handling or dealing with, or if you have same sex versus a man and woman going through whatever type of depressions or issues as far as between them or such?
I understand. So I don't believe in necessarily generalizing all people, right? Although I am a therapist and I am able to diagnose people, I don't necessarily believe in labels. For social construct purposes, we do have to be labeled in a sense, right? I have to give this person a specific mental disorder because if I don't, insurance won't pay, right? And what happens is sometimes society sees us as those labels and they handle us as such. So with that being said, to answer your question, I don't necessarily believe that because you're in a same-sex relationship versus a opposite sex relationship, it doesn't restrict barriers associated with emotional safety or vulnerability and things like that. I think that is on a spectrum. I think it's very person specific. I don't necessarily believe that same-sex marriages or opposite sex marriages are one way.
Right.
It's very specific to the person. It's very specific to how they grew up, their experiences, their culture, their beliefs, just their innate sense of selves. That is a high contributing factor to how they raise their adopted children, their biological children, whatever, their foster children. Emotionally safe is a mindset. I think it's perpetuation of vulnerability, one, acceptance, and belongingness. I think that an innate human desire is to want to feel like we belong, want to feel accepted, no matter our differences or our similarities, right? So how we harbor and manifest and cultivate those relationships with our children and with our partners, it really is a reflection of who we are as people and not the social constructs that we're placed in even before we're birthed, right? I hope I answered your question.
You did. So stay on this kind of where we are. Say if, like, in the past, before you switch gears, did you have any situations where there was someone that's possibly lesbian, gay, or in the LGBT where they needed resources of some sort to either come out to their family or to even if they came out to their family and it was like an issue where the family disowned or they didn't want them there anymore? Do you know or have an idea or suggestion for resources or what can be done to make that transition or stage in someone's life as smooth as possible for them and the parents or a family member who maybe don't understand it?
The first time that I've had a professional encounter with someone who was LGBTQ or identified as such, and I had to do something in a professional way, not necessarily in my personal life.
Right.
I was working as a child protective services worker. This young man, he identified as something that was not conducive to what his biological family wanted for him.
Okay.
He dressed in feminine clothing, and he identified as a homosexual. Because of that, he was kicked out of his home. So we had to do like a whole CPS investigation of neglect. He was placed into foster care ultimately, and in foster care, he began to act out. he began to act out because he felt like if my biological family does not want me, you know, who is going to be there to support me if my foundation has betrayed me.
Right.
So in that capacity as the social worker, so without even sharing my own views on sexual orientation and gender roles and things like that with this person, I was able to, I think, so to speak, make some type of connection with him, because I'd like to think that I have a accepting aura, non-judgmental aura about me. In many cases, I mean, obviously humans judge, it's just an innate thing in us, but I try to extend compassion and understanding and grace in whatever I'm doing, especially at work. When I was working as a CPS investigator, to this youth who had not really had the opportunity to be exposed to real life. He was just starting out.
Right.
And his foundation to neglect him because of something I don't feel was a choice, it was something in him. There was a cause, or there was a need for intervention. So, just going to supervision with my supervisor and bouncing ideas off of my colleagues and fellow social workers and therapists, we kind of had to think outside of the box, because none of us had really experienced this in a professional way. So we had to think out of the box and provide different services, such as we had to locate therapists who were specializing in gender identity crisis and youth who were coming out and who were being rejected by society, by their family, by their peers, and just providing them with the space to feel comfortable in being who they wanted to be, who they are. So just that kind of out of the box thinking, it helped me realize that there are not a lot of resources for youth. And I'm not even going to say youth, just persons in general who experience rejection and the lack of support in the coming out process and things like that. It's a really out of the box situation where you have to get super creative in order to address specific needs, because it's not a one size fits all type of situation.
That's very interesting. I think I think that's interesting here, because I feel like before, like maybe some years ago, to hear that would have been surprising. But since like it's not as taboo as before, like people are gay out here, and so is there like so there is a profession, like a specialization in something like LGBT something, or is it not, like that's not a specialty, like something you can specialize in currently that you know of?
So for entrepreneurs like myself and business owners like myself,
right,
you can do whatever you want to do. I can do whatever the fuck I want to do, right? And because of that, I have created this life that is conducive and aligned with how my personal life is, right? Like I speak with my clients how I speak sometimes to my girlfriends, and that's part of my niche. Part of my niche is being relatable, and it's nothing, it's not being fake or disingenuous. Yeah. It's me being who I am and bringing that to my profession and what I choose to do for a living. So with that being said, people can choose their niche as anything. Right. It can be, and I chose the postpartum depression and anxiety. I chose those things because I too struggle with anxiety. I struggle with postpartum depression. Mm-hmm. I'm a part of the LGBTQ family. I'm an ally. I all of these things that make me are contributing to my expertise in what I deliver to the people that entrust their mental and emotional stability to me.
Yeah, I understand. I agree. I was just reading something where it was talking about how people enter spaces where it takes so much work where it doesn't have to. So like you said, you can thrive and do well because these are things that you care about, that you can, relate to, that you've been through, that you're going through. And then people put their spaces in like something like, if I did feminine women who like to wear skirts, I don't know. And it's like, you might know a few things about that, but you're not going to succeed at that because that's not that's not who you are. That's not. So I appreciate you saying that. And so basically you just said that some people need to get their shit together and become social workers and specialize in gay and lesbian stuff so that they can be more people to to go to.
I like that plug in there for like, okay, all right. So I'm for it. I'm here for it. I believe in doing what you're passionate about, right? What doesn't feel like work and what you feel like you have to offer to a certain population or community or person or whatever, that would be beneficial. And it would, in turn, when that happens, it begins to feed into you. Yeah. So you are going to this place or this office set up and it's not feeling like work, and you are learning things from your clients or your people that you serve, that you allow to take back into your personal life, and then you're just thriving. So it's like a cyclical trend, right? And it manifests a relationship of genuity.
Okay, genuity. All right, so speaking of it, mindfulness, how do you recommend, or what tools do you give your clients, and what type of mindfulness do you incorporate in your own personal life?
So I'm going to start with my personal life.
Okay.
So for me, I enjoy binge watching Netflix, right? And that's like, not even Netflix, but just TV in general. I love crime shows. So that's part of my happy place, and that's how I decompress. I work 6 days a week. I am a business owner as well as a therapist, so I have to do both sides. So that's kind of how I decompress. When I want to be actively decompressing and mindful about the way I'm decompressing, and kind of not allowing people's trauma, the experiences throughout the week that they come to me with, affect my psyche, my subconscious. I love to journal. I write about what comes to mind, and what I have found is that, so I know you can relate to this. I love to write poetry. But even when I'm just trying to journal about my feelings, it kind of turns into poetry, right? And I read it back and I'm like, damn, girl, that was good. So yeah, so that's very therapeutic for me. And just going back, a few months ago and just reading where I came from and what I experienced on September 18th, 2020. And today, February 13th, 2022 is a different place, right? Because in that place, I found that I was, so to speak, in dire straits, and I was sad or angry, and the issues that I had back then don't necessarily matter now. So it gives me a reminder that nothing is permanent, right? Nothing is, unless you want it to be. Yeah, that's a whole story. But so journaling, yes. I indulge in aromatherapy. I love my candles and different scents, essential oils. I love to put them on my pressure points under my nose, like lavender, peppermint, just to kind of soothe me and relax me. I do believe in crystals. I have my crystals on my desk right here. They give off certain energies for me, whether I want to revamp my wealthy mindset or kind of calm myself, whatever my heart and my mind feels that it needs at that time, then that's what I'll do. I also have a son, and I spend time with him. He keeps me young. We do TikToks often. So I love doing that with him. He thinks I'm like this lame mom, but he's gonna look back and he's gonna say, my mom did that with me, and I'm gonna feel the joy in my heart every day, I know. Because I spend time with him. So it just depends on what you need in that moment.
I think you touched on something important, because I work with people who want to either lose weight or do this and eat better, and they try to make so many changes or say I had to do this every day. But the fact that you said if you don't journal every day, that's okay. So giving yourself the options to have various things that you enjoy doing to be an outlet for you is important, because then some people get mad that they didn't do something and then they get anxious or start feeling bad about that, and that just creates and builds upon the problem too. It's like now you maybe didn't do that, and then, so I'm glad you said, you know, you have different outlets, so based on how you feel, to relax a little bit and take care of yourself. So I like that a lot. So I have these my ending questions. Unless you have something else you want to share, I have some final questions. That's quick answers.
Okay, that's fine.
All right. So first question, what's your sign?
I'm a Gemini.
Okay. What's your relationship status?
I'm married.
Married. Okay. As a married woman, do you feel your profession makes it easier or harder to date within your relationship, within your marriage? Like, do you feel like, say it makes it easier because you feel, I don't want to say you feel like grateful, or you feel like there's someone that's in your corner regardless, like you could talk to, and it makes like being in that space easier? Or do you feel like based on the things you hear and from your clients and such, that it makes it like a bit harder because you take it, do you take it home with you, or can you easily let it go, like as far as your space? Like, do you feel like you bring work home and it kind of carries over into your space sometimes? Or is it like, once I'm done with this, I'm done with this, so it doesn't affect your relationship at all, emotionally, mentally, physically?
So if I'm receiving this correctly, I'm interpreting what you asked is me dating my partner,
right,
like over and over again, even though we're married, right?
Right. So just does it, like, your profession affect your dating at all, like mentally? Like, does it take a toll on you at times, or emotionally, where it's like, I've heard some stuff today that I'm just like, maybe you may have plans to go out or something. And it's like maybe my mood or anything, like, does it affect your relationship space? You know, or can you separate the two?
I can definitely separate the two in a sense that I don't necessarily take the stories and the experiences of my clients home with me,
Right.
and allow that to penetrate my relationship or my personal life. But what does is the business part of it, because I'm a business owner. So that can be very stressful on the back end, and just making sure that I am doing all that I need to be doing to make sure that my business excels in any way possible, every way possible. That part does come home sometimes. And because my partner is such an entrepreneur himself, he's able to understand and to kind of extend that compassion and, advice as far as the entrepreneurial and business type of it. But as far as like the stressful stories that I hear and the experiences, no, actually, it's quite the opposite. I kind of thrive off of those things, because I have clients that I see months and months at a time, and I remind them consistently, look, let's go back to the first progress note that I wrote for you. And let's look at where you were emotionally and mentally, and even physically sometimes, and let's compare it to now. And that gives them kind of a snapshot of their growth.
Right.
Right. And that helps me in a way look at myself and say that I did something right. I would like to take some type of credit for that. So it kind of extends accolades to me in a sense. It's kind of like an ego booster in a sense.
All right. Last question. If someone had to do something for themselves that also benefited, like something like, I'm gonna do this for me, what's something that you can do for yourself that could also directly or indirectly impact someone, like other people around you or someone that you care about? If they had to do one thing often, it's like, maybe I'm going to do this for myself, but then it's so good for them that it kind of like oozes out and touches everyone else.
Mm-hmm. Travel.
Travel.
See the world. And even if you don't have the means to see the world, do something outside of your comfort zone. So you can go, book an Airbnb for the weekend, 20, 30 minutes down the road, and go to a restaurant alone, doing something different outside of your normal routine that will kind of revamp and allow you to refocus whatever you need to refocus. Just bringing yourself back to yourself in a mindfulness type of way, but just doing something that you wouldn't normally do, so that you have. So I always talk about this capacity to my clients, and once this capacity is depleted, we don't have the capacity to engage productively with other people. We don't have the capacity to help other people the way that we would want to if our capacities were full. So just something to fill back up your capacity, whatever that looks like. And that also takes you knowing yourself, right? What makes you happy? What relaxes you? You have to know these things in order to know how to fill your capacity back up.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else you want to share?
No, but if you are looking for a clinical therapist, I have two young ladies who work in my practice that are beautiful, Jamietta Adams and Shauna McGusty, and myself, Chelsea Glover Jordan. We can be found on www.3roads, the number 3roads, like the street, therapy, 3roadstherapy.com.
Okay.
That's
I'll
it.
put that in a link somewhere.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate you being my first guest. You did
Thank
great.
you. I appreciate you having me on. I was a little nervous, but you made it easy.
All right, Chelsea. Thanks again. I hope you have a good day.
You too.
All right.